Around 1.68 lakh crore farmers, around 1.68 crore farmers are registered, and 1.14 lakh crores of rupees trade value has been carried out through e-NAMs, the National Agricultural Market. Keeping in view the transparency and the competitiveness that e-NAM has brought into the agricultural market, 1,000 more mandis will be integrated with e-NAM. Honorable Speaker, sir, with all this, the Agricultural Infrastructure Fund would be made available to the APMCs for augmenting their infrastructure facilities. Fisheries. I am proposing substantial investments in the development of modern fishing harbors and fish landing centers. To start with, 5 major fishing harbors, Kochi, Chennai, Visakhapatnam, Paradip, and Petua Ghat, will be developed as hubs for economic activity. We will also develop inland fishing harbors and fish landing centers along the banks of rivers and waterways. Seaweed farming is an emerging sector with potential to transform the lives of coastal communities. It will provide large-scale employment and additional incomes. To promote seaweed farming and cultivation, I propose a multi-purpose seaweed park to be established in Tamil Nadu. Migrant workers and laborers. We have launched the One Nation, One Ration Card scheme, through which beneficiaries can claim their rations anywhere in the country. Migrant workers in particular benefit from the scheme. Those staying away from their families can partially claim their ration where they are stationed, while their family in their native places can claim the rest. I am happy to inform you that One Nation, One Ration Card plan is under implementation by 32 states and union territories, reaching about 69 crore beneficiaries. That's a total of 86% beneficiaries covered. The remaining 4 states and UTs will be integrated in the next few months. To further extend our efforts towards the unorganized labor force, migrant workers in particular, I propose to launch a portal that will collect relevant information on gig workers, building and construction workers, among others. This will help formulate health, housing, skill, insurance credit, and food schemes for all migrant workers. We will conclude a process that began 20 years ago with the implementation of the 4 labor codes. For the first time globally, social security benefits will be extended to gig and platform workers. Minimum wages will apply to all categories of workers, and they will all be covered by the Employees State Insurance Corporation. Women will be allowed to work in all categories and also in the night shifts with adequate protection. At the same time, compliance burden on employers will be reduced with a single registration and licensing and online returns. Financial inclusion. To further facilitate credit flow under the scheme of Stand Up India for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and also women, I propose to reduce the margin money requirement from 25% to 15% only, and to also include loans for activities in allied sectors in allied activities in agriculture. We have taken a number of steps to support the MSME sector. In this budget, I have provided 15,700 crores to this sector, more than double of the last year's B. Honourable Speaker, sir, I now go to the fourth pillar, reinvigorating human capital. The national education policy announced recently has had good reception. In school education, more than 15,000 schools will be qualitatively strengthened to include all components of the national education policy. They shall emerge as exemplar schools in their regions, hand-holding and mentoring other schools to achieve the ideals of policy. 100 new Sainik schools will be set up in partnership with NGOs, private schools and states. Higher education. In Budget 2019-20, I had mentioned about the setting up of a higher education commission in India. We would be introducing the legislation this year to implement the same. It will be an umbrella body having 4 separate vehicles for standard setting, accreditation, regulation and funding. Many of our cities have various institutions, universities and colleges supported by the Government of India. Hyderabad, for example, has about 40 major institutions. In 9 such cities, we will create a formal umbrella structure so that these institutions can have better synergy while also retaining their internal autonomy. A glue grant will be set aside for this purpose. For accessible higher education in Ladakh, I propose to set up a central university in Leh. The other important projects to be taken up as a part of the NEP are listed in Annexure 5. Scheduled caste and scheduled tribes welfare. We have set ourselves a target of establishing 750 Eklavya model residential schools in our tribal areas. I propose to increase the unit cost of each such school from 20 crores, which is what it is now, to 38 crores, and for hilly and difficult areas to 48 crores. This would help creating robust infrastructure facilities for our tribal students. We have revamped the post-metric scholarship scheme for the welfare of scheduled caste students. I have also enhanced the central assistance in this regard. We are allotting 35,219 crores for 6 years till 25-26 to benefit 4 crores scheduled caste students. Skilling. In 2016, we had launched the National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme. The government proposes to amend the Apprenticeship Act with a view to further enhancing apprenticeship opportunities for our youth. We will realign the existing scheme of National Apprenticeship Training Scheme for providing post-education apprenticeship, training of graduates and diploma holders in engineering. Over 3,000 crores will be provided for this purpose. An initiative is underway, Honourable Speaker, in partnership with the United Arab Emirates to benchmark skill qualifications, assessment and certification, accompanied by the deployment of certified workforce. We also have a collaborative intertraining program between India and Japan to facilitate transfer of Japanese industrial and vocational skills, techniques and knowledge. We will take forward this initiative with many more countries also. Innovation and R&D. In my budget speech of 2019, I had announced the National Research Foundation. We have now worked out the modalities, and the NRF outlay will be of 50,000 crores over 5 years. It will ensure that the overall research ecosystem in the country is strengthened with focus on identified national priority thrust areas. There has been a manifold increase in digital payments in the recent past. To give a further boost to digital transactions, I earmarked 1,500 crores for a proposed scheme that will provide financial incentive to promote digital mode of payment. We will undertake a new initiative, National Language Translation Mission. This will enable the wealth of governance and policy-related knowledge on the Internet being made available in major Indian languages. The new Space India Limited, a PSU, under the Department of Space, will execute the PSLV CS-51 launch, carrying the Amazonia satellite from Brazil, along with a few smaller Indian satellites. As part of the Gaganyaan mission activities, 4 Indian astronauts are being trained on generic spaceflight aspects in Russia. The first unmanned launch is slated for December 2021. Our oceans are a storehouse of living and non-living resources. To better understand this realm, we will launch a deep ocean mission with a budget outlay of more than 4,000 crores over 5 years. This mission will cover deep ocean survey exploration and projects for the conservation of deep sea biodiversity. I come to the 6th pillar, Honorable Speaker, minimum government, maximum governance. Honorable Speaker, sir, this is the last of the 6 pillars. This will outline plans for reforms in one of our core principles of minimum government, maximum governance. We have taken a number of steps to bring reforms in tribunals in the last few years for speedy delivery of justice. Continuing with the reforms process, I now propose to take further measures to rationalize the functioning of tribunals. We have introduced the National Commission for Allied Healthcare Professionals Bill in Parliament. National Commission for Allied Healthcare Professionals Bill in the Parliament, with a view to ensure transparent and efficient regulation of 56 allied healthcare professionals. Additionally, to bring about transparency, efficiency, and governance reforms in the nursing profession, the National Nursing and Midwifery Commission Bill will be introduced by the government for passing. To have ease of doing business for those who deal with government or CPSEs and carry out contracts, I propose to set up a conciliation mechanism and mandate its use for quick resolution of contractual disputes. This will instill confidence in private investors and contractors. Honorable Speaker, sir, the forthcoming census could be the first digital census in the history of India. For this monumental milestone-marking task, I have allocated 3,768 crores in this year, 21-22. Honorable Speaker, Goa is celebrating the Diamond Jubilee year of the state's liberation from Portuguese rule. From the Government of India's side, I propose to grant 300 crores to the Government of Goa for the celebration. I propose to provide 1,000 crores for the welfare of tea workers, especially women and children in Assam and West Bengal. A special scheme will be devised for the same. Fiscal position. Fiscal position. In these last few paragraphs of part A of my speech, I draw the attention of this august House to the fact that at the beginning of the current financial year, the pandemic's impact on the economy resulted in a weak revenue inflow. This was combined with high expenditure to provide essential relief to vulnerable sections of the society, especially the poor, the women, scheduled castes, and scheduled tribes. Unlike many other countries, we opted for a series of medium-sized packages during the pandemic so that we could calibrate and target our response according to the evolving situation. Once the health situation stabilized and the lockdown was being slowly lifted, we switched to ramping up government spending so as to revive domestic demand. As a result, against an original BE expenditure of 30.42 lakh crores for 2020-21, our RE estimates are 34.50 lakhs. 30.42 now within the year going up to 34.5 lakh crores. We have maintained quality of expenditure. The capital expenditure estimated in the RE is 4.39 lakh crores as against 4.12 lakh crores in the BE stage. So the beginning of the year, we had marked only 4.12 lakh, whereas it is 4.39 lakh crores as we end the year. Fiscal deficit in RE 2020-2021 is pegged at 9.5% of the GDP. Fiscal deficit in RE 2020 to 2021 is pegged at 9.5% of GDP. We have funded this through government borrowings, multilateral borrowings, small saving funds, and short-term borrowings. We would need another 80,000 crores, for which we would be approaching the market in these 2 months. We would be needing another 80,000 crores, for which we would be approaching the markets in these 2 months. To ensure that the economy is given the required push, our BE estimates for expenditure in 21-22 are 34.83 lakh crores. This includes 5.54 lakh crores as capital expenditure, an increase of 34.5% over the BE figure of 2020-2021. The fiscal deficit in BE 21-22 is estimated to be 6.8% of the GDP. The gross borrowing from the market for the next year would be around 12 lakh crores. We plan to continue with our path of fiscal consolidation and intend to reach the fiscal deficit level below 4.5% of the GDP by 2025-2026, with a fairly steady decline over the period. We hope to achieve the consolidation by first increasing the buoyancy of tax revenue through improved compliance, and secondly, by increased receipts from monetization of assets, including public sector enterprises and land. The Contingency Fund of India is being proposed to be augmented. The Contingency Fund of India is being proposed to be augmented from 500 crores to 30,000 crores through finance bill. In accordance with the views of the 15th Finance Commission, we are allowing a normal ceiling of net borrowing for the states at 4% of GSDP for the year 21-22. A portion of this ceiling will be earmarked to be spent on incremental capital expenditure. Additional borrowing ceiling of 0.5% of the GSDP will also be provided, subject to conditions. States will be expected to reach a fiscal deficit of 3% of GSDP by 2023-24, as recommended by the 15th Finance Commission. In the July 2019-20 budget, I introduced the Statement 27 on extra budgetary resources. It disclosed the borrowings of the government agencies that went towards funding Government of India schemes and whose repayment burden was on the government. In my 2020-21 budget, I enhanced the scope and coverage of that statement by including the loans provided by government to the FCI, the Food Corporation of India. Taking a step further in this direction, I propose to discontinue the NSSF loan to FCI for food subsidy, and accordingly, budget provisions have been made in RE 2020-21 and in the BE 2021-22. The extra budgetary resource details are at Annexure 6. We know that the Frbm Act mandates fiscal deficit of 3% of GDP to be achieved by 31st March 2020-2021. The effect of this year's unforeseen and unprecedented circumstances has necessitated the submission of a deviation statement under Sections 4 of Subclause 5 and Section 7, Subclause 3b of the Frbm Act, which I am laying on the table of the House as part of the Frbm documents. Towards achieving central government fiscal deficit along the broad path that I have already indicated, I will be introducing an amendment to the Frbm Act. Honourable Speaker, on the 9th of December 2020, the 15th Finance Commission submitted its final report covering the period 2021 to 2026 to the Rashtrapati Ji. The government has laid the Commission's report along with the explanatory memorandum in the Parliament, retaining the vertical shares of the states at 41%. We recognize our commitment to fiscal federalism and propose, therefore, to adhere to this recommendation. Jammu and Kashmir in the 14th Finance Commission was entitled to get devolution being a state. Now the funds of the UTs of Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh would be provided by the centre. I have also provided on the Commission's recommendation 1,18,452 crores as revenue deficit grant to 17 states in 21-22 as against 74,340 crores to 14 states in 2020-21. Honourable Speaker, I would now move to Part B of my speech. Honourable Speaker, the world is facing a serious challenge of the pandemic and its aftershock. In these trying times, when many economies are struggling to revive, our people and our industry have exhibited remarkable resilience. As I mentioned already, post-pandemic, a new world order seems to be emerging, one in which Asia is poised to occupy a prominent position, and India will have a leading role therein. In this scenario, our tax system has to be transparent, efficient, and should promote investments and employment in our country. At the same time, it should put minimum burden on our taxpayers. I borrow the words of Thiruvalluvar, the saint. Yetralum, Eatalum, Kathalum, Katha Vaguthalum, Nalla Valladarasu. A king or a ruler is the one who creates and acquires wealth, protects and distributes it for common good. Tirukkural. Direct tax proposals. Keeping this in mind, the words of Tirukkural, our government introduced a series of reforms in the direct tax system for the benefit of our taxpayers and the economy. Few months prior to the pandemic, in order to attract investments, we slashed our corporate tax corporate tax rate to make it among the lowest in the world. The dividend distribution tax, too, was abolished. The burden of taxation on small taxpayers was eased by increasing rebates. In 2020, the return filers saw a dramatic increase to 6.48 crores from 3.31 crores in 2014.